Works Live, and I'm so glad you're here. Rebecca here. We're talking about life and life abundant. That's the name of the game on our show today. It is in the home stretch. I joke because I follow the politics and elections and all of that because a girl has to have a hobby, right? I don't do sports, not really. I like to read books and I follow politics because I don't know what's good for me. But I feel like right now, I feel like probably every average American does like a year ago. I have had my fill at the moment. We won't have to hear campaign speeches anymore in a very short order, but history will be made. As we speak and as you're listening to this, we're on the precipice of a new era, whichever way it goes, in American history. And we are covering this in prayer. All joking aside, I think that's the place of God's people, is to think, to pray, to vote, and then pray some more and keep on praying. No matter what happens, we know that God is still in control and in his hands, but we have a responsibility and we have an opportunity. So we're going to talk about we always hear it's the most important election of our lives, and this is the most important issue of any election, and that is the issue of life. It's been quite a campaign. I would say abortion has been front and center in this campaign like no other that I have ever seen. And yet it still seems like I'm left wanting something more. I'm left wanting the clarity that comes from true leadership and true conviction on this issue. But never fear. We could find that clarity. We could provide that clarity for those of us who understand God's heart for life and the beautiful design of each and every human being. I found the speech that I would like to hear from none other than dear friend of the show, Maggie DeWitte. And before she's on the line with us now, but I have to just give her full credit. You have to hear it in its entirety. It's about 4 minutes long. So here's the speech on life that I think we'd all like to hear, beautifully done by Maggie DeWitte. Take a listen.
A little girl lay half dead on the side of the road. She was naked, her body bloodied by a grotesque act of violence. A Black woman, an attorney, happened to be going down the same road. And when she saw the little girl, she passed by on the other side. So too a white man, a teacher, who when he saw her also passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came to where the tiny girl was, and when he saw her, he was moved with compassion for her. He went and bandaged and cleaned her wounds. Then he put her in his car, brought her to a medical clinic to take care of her. He took out 2 denarii and gave them to the doctor. "Look after her," he said, "and when I return, I'll reimburse you for any extra expense." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the girl who fell into the hands of the abortionist? Seldom has a parable been more relevant to an age. This is a modern retelling of the parable of the Good Samaritan from the Gospel of Luke. I only mention skin color and gender because they mean such a great deal to partisans of a certain belief system. They don't to me, because what binds us together is our human nature, not skin color or gender. We recently witnessed a stunning event on live television. A Black woman running for the most powerful office in the world dismissed her opponent's assertion that babies are being killed by abortionists after they survive their brutal birth. She shook her head and said it was a lie. The moderator even jumped in and stated it was a lie, but it wasn't. It was all true. The Black woman's running mate, a white man who used to teach, used his power as governor of a great state to allow 8 little boys and girls to die after they had survived the abortionist's best efforts to kill them. He saw to it that the law was changed to protect not the child, but the abortionist. He saw to it that the law was changed to eliminate a healer's responsibility to heal the child. These 2 powerful persons tell us that this type of situation just doesn't happen, but it does. The powerful government of this great land admits abortionists don't report their failures to them for the sake of statistical analysis. But when a large government agency did look into this unpleasant business, they discovered another 143 little ones were left on the symbolic side of the road to die, while powerful people looked the other way. That child on the side of the road is our neighbor. Western civilization was founded on the great commandment to love your neighbor as yourself. I stand with all my neighbors. I stand with the millions of innocents, all of whom share our human nature, who have been aborted for the crime of being inconvenient. I stand with the 143 little ones allowed to die after surviving their abortionists' ghoulish efforts to kill them. I stand with that little girl on the side of the road who was saved by that Good Samaritan. I call on you to be a Good Samaritan. I call on you to stand up to the powerful on behalf of these neighbors. And I call on you to be a good neighbor to the tiniest people in our midst, the unborn. Thank you.
Maggie, well done. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about that. I get to compliment you now to your face. So well done. Thank you for putting that so beautifully into words.
Well, thank you very much. We just, as we all are, praying and trying not to worry and thinking about the election, we thought we as an organization really needed to come forward very clearly on this most important issue and what's at stake in this upcoming election.
And let's talk about that just a little bit more. I've seen every extreme that I can think of, and there are people that say the world's going to end if the election doesn't turn out that way. And I mean, I don't think that's a faithful. I understand the concern and the fears because I do believe these are vital issues at stake in the future of the nation and what kind of people we're going to be, for sure. I get all of that. I just don't want us to be despairing and kind of running around like Chicken Little, when I know the God that holds the future, and none of this is taking him by surprise. He's all going to work it all together. And yet I do think we should be open-eyed and sober about our responsibility in the coming election and about the impact that this could have. Would you care to elaborate on why you say that this election will have such an impact and we have an opportunity here?
Well, I think certainly what we've seen is abortion has been the issue with this election cycle. We have talked about it more than I can remember in any previous elections. Usually had your one token question,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's news coverage and articles and everything keep pivoting back, large in part because the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris have made it their primary issue. And they've been very clear that they want abortion on demand for any reason, for all 9 months of pregnancy and beyond, and they want taxpayers to fund it. They've been crystal clear. They see no limitations. They see no reason to have conscientious objections, anything. It's just no holds barred philosophy. And so, we who have seen such great movement on abortion with the reversal of Roe v. Wade 2 years ago, and now some of the things that we're seeing, 14 states who have eliminated abortion. We've got a lot of work to do, but we've made significant progress. And the idea of a Harris-Walz administration undoing all of that, slowly eroding everything that we have seen as these huge advances for the cause of life in the last few years being undone, is a really hard thing to think about. And you think about all of the innocent lives that would be lost and all of our momentum moving forward. And I think that's what makes it such a pivotal issue for those of us who care dearly about the issue of life and just social issues in general. when we're talking about the sanctity of marriage and traditional values. I mean, those are also going to be slowly, well, not even slowly, just, in your face eroded
Mhm.
by that administration. And I think that that is what people are talking about and are alarmed about and concerned about and praying about
Yeah.
because they don't want to see the progress that we've had so far being undone.
Right. And they have not sat idly by in the last couple of years. There have been so many state ballot initiatives. Even now, as we're talking, I believe it's 19 states. Now, our Protect Life Amendment isn't on the ballot, unfortunately, yet
No.
here in our fine state of Iowa. So still working on that. But in other states, I'm pretty sure it's 19 across the nation. Y'all can fact check me on that. That have to do with abortion and almost to a one, they are all pro-abortion initiatives.
Right.
They're working on the constitutions of their various states. They're saying there will be women's reproductive health and all of the euphemisms that they love to use to try and get more votes will essentially enshrine abortion at the state constitutional level. And I am number one, strategically, I'm impressed that they were able to move that quickly and get results like on the ballot because it's pretty difficult to get a referenda on the ballot like that. So they've been working very, very hard at to ensure that killing children is, protected across the state. Me, I'd rather work that hard to protect the actual children and the mothers that need real love and care and support and deserve to be recognized for the creations of God that they are. And it is shocking to me that pro-lifers are the ones that are called divisive when you have so many pro-abortionists that are out there saying, well, we have to use tax funds to do this. We have to enshrine it in our constitution that this is all about the quote unquote the woman who is the victim, and it's portrayed as a victim mentality. This is supposed to be empowering for women, and we ignore the true victims of abortion, the fact that this is victimizing women, number one, and it's also victimizing the most innocent of all, our own children. It forces us to dehumanize children. You regularly hear now babies being called parasites, being called less than human, blob of cells, just a clump of unwanted, just like a cancerous mole that needs to be removed. Like, you're talking about a human being. You're talking about your own baby. And the lengths that the left, but really the enemy of our souls, the devil, has gone to convince people that in order to justify the evil that, somehow that good may come by doing this, in order to justify the evil, we have to continually besmirch and continually dehumanize the most beautiful thing that God has put on this earth, which is our own children and our own babies. I marvel at the effectiveness of that strategy, but I think God's people have to be even more shrewd than that. We have to be even more relentless and tireless and brave than that. So I guess it's just a call to courage. What do you think as you look across the nation?
Yeah. And one thing I would say is a lot of people are using these ballot initiatives and, referendums and things that are happening since the reversal of Roe that haven't gone our way in the pro-life sense as a way of saying, see, the country isn't pro-life, But what I would caution and advise people to look at is when you look at these states that have had these initiatives passed, particularly like in Kansas and Ohio, which were two states that people were kind of shocked that those kinds of things would pass, you've got to understand that the amount of outside money that were poured into those states from the pro-abortion movement, from Hollywood, from the George Soroses, they have a tremendous amount of money. And those states, that money poured in overwhelmingly, combined with the fact that with that money, they were really able to confuse the voter. And we found, especially in Kansas, the way that the language of that initiative was written was very confusing to people, coupled with the millions of dollars in advertising to confuse the voter. I think that's what we were really up against, because unfortunately the pro-life movement doesn't have those millions and millions of dollars in Hollywood elites pouring into their campaigns. And that's why we're seeing some of the things that we're seeing across the state. So it's not that people aren't pro-life. I think you have to really look at the amount of money and the fact that they have, all of these advertising dollars at their fingertips to continue to confuse the voter on what's actually happening. And that's nothing new. I mean, they've done that for 50 years, right?
Right.
Everything of what you're saying. Well, it's not really a baby. Well, this is what you need for freedom and equality.
Yeah.
Confuse. And that's, I think, what we're seeing right now. And so to your point, we have to be very vigilant, and we have to, as Christians, we have to obviously pray, but we have to do our research. We have to be an informed citizen, an informed voter, and that's a lot of what we hope Pulse does and other pro-life organizations across the country to help you understand what's really happening.
Yeah. And my heart goes out to the people that are confused on this issue. I mean, I've been awake and aware about this for, but I was like 6 years old when I was holding my first pro-life sign. A person's a person, no matter how small. So like, I get it. And then as we go through life and you start to, get married, have your own children, you understand even more deeply about the beauty of life, how life is created, that your own baby, you can hear their heartbeat, you can see the development on the ultrasound. And I think, how on earth could anybody be confused about this? But obviously, the devil keeps using the same tools as he always has: the lies, the deception, the twisting of facts, the twisting of our feelings, and the argument of compassion, the argument of empathy, the argument of freedom. All of these are wonderful things, virtuous words that are just pouring forth from flowery speeches that say we have to have this for equality. There is a monumental inequality in saying that if I decide I can choose to take someone else's life, if that's right for me, I can decide to use that's the biggest power abuse I have ever seen or could ever think to say. And not to mention the fact that I'm putting aside how many women are coerced or feel like they don't have any other options, that their boyfriend or husband's going to leave them, that they're not going to be able to afford to keep a job or go to school or anything like that. Maybe they're struggling with homelessness or financial issues. All of that forces women to feel like they have no other option. And the left only pushes this option, by the way. Let's never forget that they're forcing abortion on women as their only solution, that it has to be virtuous because this is the one thing that you can do because you wouldn't want to be punished with a baby, Barack Obama. But the truth that should motivate us to true compassion, to help care for women in need, to say, all right, well, we can care for both. You can do this because you're not alone, because we're with you. And that's what the pro-life community truly does. We're the ones that are out there with clinics and resource centers and, adoption resources for women, parenting resources for women that come alongside with car seats and diapers and, helping women to find a place to live or a solid job or counseling, healing from traumas that she's experienced, all of those things to try and put the sanctity of the family unit together in many cases. It is that I wish that people could see this. And all the folks that say, well, women need this in order to be whole, in order to be healed. No, they don't. We do not need to perpetuate violence against women in order to be equal. That's a lie. The truth is that women deserve equal respect, equal care and support. And that means we have to love both her and her baby.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea that we say equality at the same time we're saying murder your child. I mean, how can those things even match up? How can we say, yes, by murdering you will have equality? You have equality already.
Yeah.
And you have options. And it's so funny to hear me say that, hear people say that, about how the pro-life movement lacks empathy and compassion when we're the ones that are there. I mean, go to a Planned Parenthood. They're not going to offer you any services if you said you wanted to parent your child. Not any. Zero.
They don't make any money from that.
Exactly. No financial assistance, no counseling, no material goods, nothing. but yet we are the ones who are actually doing the services and have been doing the services for years and years are the ones that somehow are devoid of compassion and empathy for these women. It's just, as you would say, it's just the tactics of the devil
Yeah.
at work. Confusing, lies, confusion. And that's kind of what we're up against, and we have been for a number of years. But that is why we are here, and that's why we're called to do what we are to do, and everybody is called to do this.
Yeah.
Not just life advocates and the pro-life movement, but every single one of us has a calling to this creating a culture of life.
Yeah.
You know, it takes all of us, and it takes all of us, educating, advocating, and praying for an end to abortion.
And we've got good things happening on that front. I think God is still working. His people still have effect. You probably won't hear about it on the headlines, but we're going to break some news about some good things that are happening right here in our own backyard that we can celebrate. We do have to take a quick break. Maggie, before I do that though, real quick, we are coming up on this next election cycle. And I think as we head into that, I'd love to hear your just quick summation of people who are still kind of on the fence. They're not sure if they've heard a good defense of life. Obviously, one side has made it very clear, right? Where they stand, abortion now, abortion forever, no limitations, no exceptions, no limitations. It's just a free for all. And that is unacceptable from a Christian standpoint. I have no idea how you biblically, I've seen some people try, but I do not know, like I want chapter and verse, how we can possibly justify that. I don't see it, like, get back to me, but I'm pretty sure I can't think of one reason that we can vote for that. But it has been difficult to not see a full-throated defense of life on the other side. And so I have a lot of genuinely, heart invested, wholehearted pro-life friends that are very just kind of disillusioned about whether or not they should participate and how is the best way to participate in the coming election. They want to do the most good they can for life, and they're concerned about how to do that. And, they don't want to compromise their values at the polling place. Totally get it. Absolutely, 100%. How would you counsel them as we're moving towards this important decision?
Yeah, I mean, I hear that often, and I feel it, honestly.
Yeah.
There were a lot of candidates, both in the, in the national level and here in our state, that I wish had a very stronger position on the life issue than they do. But here's how I look at it is, when you're looking at the candidates that we have and the candidates on the party of death, you know what their agenda is. They're in to undo the good that has been done. With the candidates that we wish were a little stronger, but still are pro-life, we know that they're at least not going to undo anything, right? They're not going to take away progress that has been made on the life issue. And for me, I will take that because that will be a win to not have to go back. In some cases, like here in Iowa, if all of a sudden, we're back to, unlimited abortion, or some of the other things that may happen if the party of death gets elected. So that's what I look at is they will not undo. They will not undo. Now, will they make it their strong campaign and their strong, issue? For some of them, probably not, unfortunately. But at least wise, I can be assured that the things that are in place that are pro-life will stay in place.
Perhaps kind of that he who is not against us is for us kind of philosophy. All right. Well, that's well worth considering as we move forward and head towards the ballot box. I say that, most people are probably still going to vote on election day. A lot of people have already voted, which I find kind of fascinating. Like it's just, again, the political junkie in me is fascinated by how all this works and, how many ballots are being cast and election integrity and all of that. I think that, again, pray. Y'all just keep on praying over this whole system. It's not the only thing, but it's a pretty important thing for our country and the future of our nation and our kids, our very lives, our freedom, the First Amendment, like all that stuff. Pretty, no big deal. No big deal. Just the future of the nation and our families as we know it. So God be with us and God guide our country. We are going to talk about some great things that are happening here closer to home. It's a very busy time for pro-life all across the nation and the state, and for our friends here at Pulse. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come right back with Maggie DeWitte and some good news when we return. In today's world, security has never been more vital. And at FaithWorks Live, we're proud to partner with VeriGuard Security. It's a professional physical security service, and they're really raising the bar in security and private investigations. Whether you need a team of professional officers to protect what you have worked hard to build, or their mobile security units for multiple properties or large locations, from business or corporate properties to your home or neighborhood. Perhaps you've got an event coming up. They secure quality security coverage for events large and small, because it's about peace of mind and protecting you, your family, your team, and your property. Settle for nothing less than the best when it comes to your security. You shouldn't have to compromise. When it comes to security, you can trust VeriGuard. Contact them today at veriguard.us. That's VARA guard.us. For security service, you can trust VeriGuard. When a woman faces an unplanned pregnancy, every possible emotion goes through her head. Where can she go for help and for hope? She can go to Intervisions. Here in our metro, we have 2 healthcare clinics where she will find hope and help. From free pregnancy testing and STD testing to free ultrasounds, Intervision serves women and men with STDs who find themselves in vulnerable situations. They're completely free of charge because of generous donations from folks like you. And their medical clinics help their patients get all the information that they deserve, that empowers them to make life-affirming decisions. That's what they do at Intervision's healthcare clinics right here in Des Moines. Learn more at intervisionshealthcare.org. That's intervisionshealthcare.org. And you can call 24 hours a day at 515-440-CARE. That's 515-440-2273. We're back with FaithWorks Live. Maggie DeWitte from Pulse Life Advocates, our friend and colleague and lady and a scholar. She always is super busy, and I really appreciate you basically parachuting in to be the hero, Maggie, because you guys are so super busy. And we've got some great news to report from our own backyard. I'm excited. You told me about it, and I'm like, oh no, we've got to share this.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Well, over the years, we've seen more of our brick and mortar clinics closing their doors.
Planned Parenthood clinics,
Planned
right?
Parenthood.
Abortionists. Yep.
Yeah. And, that's been a huge, huge victory to us, as we've been, one of the leaders in 40 Days for Life campaigns for a number of years, and are in the midst of it right now, praying between Ames and the Susan Knapp Clinic here in Des Moines. So what we've learned is that the only 2 locations that you can get an abortion in Iowa now are at Emma Goldman Clinic in Iowa City and the Planned Parenthood Clinic in Ames.
Wow.
So that has been some significant news. Now, we have Planned Parenthoods that are open in Sioux City and Susan Knapp here in Drake area, and then the Urbandale Clinic and the Iowa City has a Planned Parenthood, but none of them are currently performing abortions. It's referral only.
Okay.
So they're open. So they're open for other services, which, we of course don't want women to go there for the other services either, because they're not a good provider of healthcare, and we can get them into good, solid healthcare with our pregnancy resource centers that are going to be more life affirming and really help them make good choices for themselves and for their unborn children. but nonetheless a victory in that now we are down to, of course, our two college campuses, our two universities,
Sure.
is where now we are looking at abortion. So the Emma Goldman in Iowa City and then the Ames clinic, the Planned Parenthood, are the only two
Mhm.
locations now in Iowa currently providing abortion services.
Which is really good news. It also enables us to target our prayers, to target our activism, to be able to say, okay, here's where we can center our focus to try and inform women, to try to help, especially like you mentioned on college campuses. Man, that's just become a stronghold for every kind of like foul lie and strange philosophy that is antithetical to life. So ironic, I suppose, that this place is supposed to help us blossom and become fully, everything we're supposed to be is funneling young men and young women through a cycle of lies and indoctrination that's counter to life and the reality that God created. So it is really good news to hear that abortion has been reduced in our state. That it means that we know where we need to focus then. And I know that Pulse has been active in educating sidewalk counseling and in being very visible as well. We mentioned this is a super busy time. Let's talk about a few of the things that Pulse is doing just right now.
Right. So October is we are always doing our fall 40 Days for Life campaign. And our new component with that is that our effort has been to do a little bit more on the sidewalk advocacy piece of it. Because in both the locations that we've been praying at for this fall campaign, the Drake area and the Iowa State area, both we have a very good opportunity to communicate with the women and men going into those clinics because the sidewalks are very close to their front entrance, as opposed to how we were at the Army Post Road location. There was an entire parking lot, and so
Yeah.
there was really no opportunity to
Like
engage in
across the street
conversation.
and down the holler. It was funny.
Exactly. And so with that, I thought it was really necessary that we start to try to equip people on how to talk to these women that are going in. And some people aren't comfortable doing that, and that's okay. You can just stay there and pray and hold your sign or not hold a sign and just pray. But for those who do feel called, there is an opportunity to just very lovingly talk to those women and ask them, is there something I can help you with? There's other options for you. What could I do to help you? I can help you. Just some of those simple little things, not badgering, not harassing, but that might be an opportunity for that woman who is wavering on her decision to think twice and say, well, what could you do for me? And of course, then we provide all of the handouts that we have with the pregnancy resource centers. Locations in both are very close. In Ames, we have Obria Clinic, and in Des Moines, we've got Agape and Intervisions and Alpha Women's Center, and now another one that's opening up, Alternatives Pregnancy Center,
Oh, how cool.
is opening up on Merle Hay Road.
Awesome.
So they're having an open house coming up. So, we have so many options for them to go to. And so we have handouts to give them. And so, we're working really hard at getting more of a year-round presence, especially at the Ames Clinic. With the Des Moines one, we know they're not performing abortions, but it's still critical that we go there because they might be going there for other services, might be pregnant, might then be referred to another clinic. So it's important still to have a presence there. And, I've been doing a lot of speaking across Iowa on different topics related to life. I think everybody thinks, oh, it's Respect Life Month. Let's get a speaker in. And that's great.
Sure.
And I love that. I love that. So, I've been doing a fair amount of hitting the road, just kind of going out and about, talking about life issues. And of course, with the election, everybody is front and center on this issue. So we've really been focused on that. And then, of course, preparing for our upcoming fundraising gala on November 23rd. And so that's here in Des Moines. And, it's really a great opportunity. Obviously, we need the funds. The funds help us to do all of the outreach that we do throughout the whole year. You know, all of the different events, the activities, the speech you saw earlier, all of those different things, you know, they cost money.
True.
And so we're kind of utilizing that fundraiser to do that. But we also want it to be educational. You know, we want people to be updated on the latest things that are happening in pro-life. And this year we have a really great speaker. His name is Dr. John Prochowski, and he was actually a former abortionist.
Mm.
And he had a conversion, and, you know, the blinders were removed, and he realized he was not doing what he was supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And now operates the largest pro-life medical clinic in the country. And
Oh,
he
that's so
is in
cool.
Virginia, and he's going to share his conversion story, which those conversion stories are always so powerful. You know, you think
Absolutely.
about Abby Johnson and, you know, other clinic workers that have, you know, realized that, you know, and they weren't evil people. They were deceived, and they
Yeah.
really thought they were doing good. And he did too, until he realized, whoa, I am on the wrong side here. And
Yeah.
so he's going to share his conversion story, which I think will be really powerful. So, you know, getting ready for that. And then before you know it, it'll be, we're going to once again take people to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. So our deadline to register is November 15th. We've got one bus almost full, working on our second bus, and then we'll be ready to go to session.
Oh, that's so exciting. And it's coming up quicker than you know it. I'm glad you
Yeah.
mentioned that. I'll put down a link, an easy link to Pulse's website too, so you can get connected, find out more about these events. If you want to take a ticket to Washington, D.C. in January, because you're a brave soul, why not? Uh, and you want to stand for life. Also, if you want to get tickets, I'm really excited to hear the good doctor's story. I appreciate a good conversion story. Again, it's that good news, even in the darkness. God is still working. And I was reminded of that. I saw a little clip from our pal Lila Rose, and she was interviewing Jill Staniak, who I know
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and we've talked to
Yes.
her before. And she has a conversion story as well, former abortion nurse in working in an abortion facility, and again thought she was doing a good thing, a normal thing, helping women, all of that. And the story that she tells about her wake up call, and it was just like a 90-second little clip from that happened to come up.
Mhm.
And I like the poignancy with which she describes this tiny little baby, the product of abortion, as they
Yeah.
call it. She said she went in and saw the body of this little boy who was aborted because he had Down syndrome. And she describes him. She says he was about as big as my hand. He was 21 and a half weeks old. Couldn't move very much because he was using all of his energy just to struggle and try to breathe. Not much she could do at that point. Like, he wouldn't have been able to there was nothing that could be done to help him survive. And so she just sat with him for 45 minutes and watched his little life. And just that, like, I can't even think of that without the desperate tears of saying, wake up, people, wake up, ladies, wake up, gentlemen, wake up, church. We have to stop that kind of violence. So that little boy deserves life. He deserves to be born. They deserve to be protected and loved. And his mom deserves support and care, and not to be scared into the back of, an abortion clinic and told that this is equality and this is the only option she has, and she needs to just, get up, move over, and then half an hour later get out of the clinic because you got the next woman coming along in the pipeline to pay their billion dollar industries bills. It's utterly disgusting. And I cannot but think that God has called us for just such a time as this, to stand up against the evil, against the violence, against the lies, shine the truth into the darkness, and react in love. And I think, going back to the beginning, the fact that you use the Good Samaritan as an analogy is so important. None of us have to be perfect. None of us have to be the hero of the story. Christ has already done that work. We're just here to pass along the message. We're here to love, we're here to serve, we're here to care. And that, I think you can do that without berating people or without treating them like they're awful people, even if they're doing awful things, even if they seem to be purveying an awful lie. I think seeing them as being captured, being deceived by the enemy, and just praying again and shining the light of truth that God loves each and every one of us. And that's true for our preborn neighbors as well. That's true for their parents. It's even true for politicians. Believe it or not, God loves them too. So I'm continuing to pray for my nation, pray for the future, that God will open our eyes and our hearts to life, that we will stop justifying this violence, stop perpetuating this violence, and really start to reach out in love to one another, because that's really what it's all about. And I know that's what you guys do. Maggie, thank you so much for everything you do. Any closing thoughts as we move forward into this brave new world?
Yeah, I mean, the closing thoughts would be, as a citizen, as a faithful citizen, it's our duty to be a faithful citizen, right? And so you do need to vote. I know there's some apathy with what we've got right now, and but we need to move forward. And we do have some strong pro-life candidates, even those we wish to be stronger. At least they are for the most part, on our side on this issue. And I think the other side is so extreme, what you were talking about. And I had just referenced Jill Stanek myself in a talk that I gave last week when we're talking about these botched abortions, right? And the Infant Born Alive Act that has failed to ever pass in Congress. I mean, that's the extremism of the other side. That's what you're voting for. That's what you're voting for.
Yeah. And I don't see how you can justify that on Judgment Day. So I think we've got to vote. Again, we think hard, we pray hard, we go and vote, and then keep on praying and keep on living free, serving the Lord, and living in love, come what may. Thank you, Maggie, for all that you do every single day. For the fine folks at Pulse, check out pulseforlife.org. I'll put an easy link down below this. If this conversation has motivated you, please do pass it on to a friend. If you can vote, and if you can bring along one person to prayerfully vote for life, that's going to be our little homework assignment for now. Just someone that's maybe on the fence or isn't sure their vote makes a difference. It will. It will, in the here and now, in our cities, in our state, and in our nation. So thank you for listening to FaithWorks Live. Until next time, our mission is to love God, to serve people, and to live free.